The premise of the movie is set in the past, around 500 years ago. On the screen, the charismatic Hugh Jackman, in the form of a handsome conquistador, is praying. In his memories, the image of the beautiful Spanish queen appears, who gives him a ring. He and two of his companions then try to break through the jungle trap. They are surrounded by Mayan warriors. The conquistador's partners die, but he is left alive. He climbs the endless steps of a Mayan temple and encounters their priest. The priest wounds the conquistador and then swings to deliver the killing blow. Our hero screams and wakes up. Now we have a completely bald Hugh Jackman. He floats in a lotus position somewhere in space, in a large pool of light, and then lands next to a strange old tree. Now it becomes clear that this is not a historical film, but a fantasy. Hugh Jackman is talking to a tree, and the tree seems to hear him. The Spanish queen appears, only now she is an ordinary woman in a white coat and hat. She calls the main character for a walk because a lot of snow has fallen. But the hero, who's called Tommy, drives her away. He eats tree bark, creates ink from it, and tattoos himself with rings around his forearm. The same woman reappears, but now she is in a hospital bed and has cancer. And then we see again how Izzy, the main character and Tommy's wife, calls him for a walk in the snow. But this time the action is transferred to the modern world, to Tommy's office. He again refuses, claiming that he needs to work. The wife leaves, and he rushes after her, but he is already being called into the operating room. So we learn that Tommy is a doctor and a scientist. In the operating room, he washes his hands, removing from his finger the same ring as the conquistador had in the first scene of the film. Tommy fails to help a patient who needs to be operated on. The frustrated doctor sits on the floor and looks up. There he sees the same tree in the accumulation of light in space and seems to remember something. He runs to the lab and asks to find samples of a recently researched tree. He wants to get medicine from it for the patient. Part of the team is enthusiastic about this task, but some consider such experiments risky. After a few hours, having received the necessary research results, the team resumes the operation and we finally see the patient. It's a monkey with a brain tumor. After the operation, Tommy discovers that his ring is missing, but he does not have time to search. The boss calls him to talk. She doesn't like that Tommy is doing questionable experiments on animals. She suggests that he take a few days off to be with his wife. But Tommy refuses, as he works hard just for his wife, to find a way to save her from cancer. He returns home and finds his wife on the roof. She shows him through a telescope the accumulation of light around a dying star. Izzy says that the Mayan tribes called this place Xibalba and considered it a place where the souls of the dead are reborn. Izzy is writing a book about it. Tommy wants to read it, but his wife won't agree to it yet. Tommy notices that she has no shoes on. It scares him, but it doesn't seem to bother Izzy at all. Next, we again see a bald Tommy in a monk costume, flying in a transparent sphere with a tree somewhere in space. Here I once again asked myself the question, what is going on? But to understand the deep philosophy of this film, you need to watch it to the end. Tommy helps Izzy take a bath and finds out that she hasn't felt hot or cold in a long time. The woman is scared. The husband tries to calm her down and ends up having sex in the bathroom. Later that day, Tommy makes an appointment for his wife to see the doctor. Izzy gives him her unfinished book and asks him to start reading it immediately. But the man receives a phone call from colleagues and instead of reading, he leaves for work in the middle of the night. The monkey they operated on is showing amazing results. Her skull has practically healed, and after all, not even a day has passed since the operation. In addition, the monkey shows excellent results in brain activity. But the operation did not affect the tumor. This upsets Tommy. He just made a big discovery, but it won't help his wife get well. Disappointed, he returns home to his wife. To get a little distraction from gloomy thoughts, he begins to read her unfinished book, Fountain. In the book, Izzy describes Spain during the Inquisition, and I realized that the conquistador in the first scenes of the film is a character in the book of the wife. So we are immersed in the atmosphere of Spain. The Grand Inquisitor is trying to deprive the Queen of Spain, Isabella, first of land and power, and then of life. He is taking away bit by bit the land owned by the Queen. The conquistador tries to kill the Inquisitor, but he is stopped by the Queen's messenger. She asks him to come to her. Isabella has her plan of salvation. She believes that it is not necessary to kill the Inquisitor. He just needs to find the hidden Mayan pyramid and the tree of eternal life in the Spanish jungle. It is in her eternal life that the Queen will bring salvation to Spain. The conquistador is outraged, the country is in danger, and he is offered to believe in some pagan legends. And I agree with his outrage. I would also look for more mundane ways to solve the problem. But Isabella changes his mind. She quotes from the Bible to confirm, and also gives the conquistador a ring and promises to become his Eve when he returns to her with the tree of eternal life. And together they will rule Spain forever. A beautiful promise that many men would move mountains for, right? Tommy is so engrossed in reading that he doesn't notice how his wife has left. He finds her in a museum. She shows him the Mayan book and introduces him to the myth of the origin of life. The forefather of the Mayan tribe sacrificed his body for the creation of the world and became the tree of life. His body became roots, forming the earth. His soul became branches, forming the sky, and his head became Xibalba. Izzy leads Tommy to the idea that death is an act of creation, an integral part of life. She has already come to terms with the fact of her impending death and now wants her husband to be able to accept this news too. He does not support this conversation and moves away from Izzy. The woman is getting sick. She raises her head as if she saw something above and faints. At the hospital, Tommy reassures his wife that she will not die. He is sure that he can help her thanks to his discovery. However, the doctor who treats Izzy is not so optimistic. At the same time, Izzy herself assures her husband that she was not at all afraid of the approaching death and was even waiting for it. Tommy returns to work and performs another operation. His research shows phenomenal results. The monkey seems to be getting younger, but the cancer tumor remains the same. Tommy is desperate. Probably, this is a very difficult test, to look for a way to save a loved one, but never find it. He again quarrels with the boss, who thinks that he should be in the hospital with his wife, and not in the laboratory. Tommy returns to his wife and receives an unusual gift from her. This is a writing set, fountain pen and ink. Izzy says that her book does not have the last chapter, and that he will have to write it. It looks like a parting gift, doesn't it? No wonder Tommy is freaking out again, but his wife is adamant. She tells him a story she heard from a guide while traveling to the Mayan pyramids. The guide's father died, and he planted a special tree seed on his grave. And according to him, if you dig up the grave now, the body will not be there, since the father has become a tree. But the problem is that Tommy is not yet ready to let go of his wife, and is not going to give up trying to heal her. Meanwhile, in the sphere floating in space, Monk Tommy speaks to the tree again and promises him that they will soon get to Xibalba, and then the tree will be reborn, along with Tommy himself. In the hospital, the protagonist continues to read his wife's book. The conquistador and his team are unsuccessfully trying to find the hidden pyramid. A rebellion is brewing in the team. People are desperate and want to return home since these searches are useless. And when the Queen's priest finally finds the pyramid, the riot turns into a fight. Only the conquistador and two of his companions remain alive, but the priest manages to tell him where the hidden pyramid is before his death. We saw this further in the first scene of the film. The conquistador prays and remembers the promise of his queen. Tommy stops reading when he hears his wife's pulse stop. He tries to resuscitate her, but the rest of the doctors put him out the door of the ward. While he is waiting, his boss appears in the corridor with good news. The tumor in the experimental monkey has begun to decrease. Tommy got his way and found a way to beat brain cancer. He runs back to his wife's room, but alas, it's too late. Izzy is dead. An evil twist of fate. He found a way to help her only when it was already useless. The scene of Tommy's aggressive fit is very difficult. It hurts to watch the impotence and despair of a man who has just lost his beloved wife. In the sphere, the tree that Tommy the monk spoke to also dies. At the funeral, Tommy is unable to listen to the eulogy over his wife's grave. He is angry at death and considers it a disease for which a cure can be found. He still cannot come to terms with human impotence in the face of death, and it's not for us to blame him for this. I don't know how I would behave in such a situation. At home, Tommy wants to finish reading Izzy's book, but at the moment of the collision between the conquistador and the Mayan priest, the book ends. Then there is room for the final chapter, but Tommy can't write anything right now. He gets angry and accidentally spills the ink given to Izzy. Noticing that there is no wedding ring on his finger, he cries and tattoos himself with a fountain pen in the form of a ring on his finger. In this scene, Hugh Jackman looks so hurt that it's hard to watch. In Xibalba, the monk also has such a ring on his finger, and also a lot of ring tattoos around both hands. It's like these events take place many years after Izzy's death, and Tommy has been tattooing himself all this time. He recalls the events immediately after his wife's death. Then he delved deeper into the study of the tree, which gave such results. A sphere with an already dead tree flies into Zabalba. Tommy's wife returns again, asking him to finish the book, and Queen Isabella, asking him to give his life for Spain. Tommy realizes that he will soon die and thus unite with his beloved in eternal life. We again see how when Tommy's wife calls him for a walk, but he refuses, and then, as if remembering something, he still goes for a walk with her. In the sphere, Tommy flies over a tree, exits the sphere, and flies into Zabalba. The conquistador, in a battle with a Mayan priest, suddenly turns into a Tommy monk floating in a lotus position, and the priest kneels before him. He lets the conquistador kill him, and he finally finds the tree of life. He extracts the juice from the tree. One drop falling into the grass becomes enough for flowers to instantly grow in this place. The conquistador is wounded, and he decides to smear the wound with tree sap. The wound heals, and the conquistador greedily drinks the tree sap. And then he sees Zabalba in front of him and turns into grass and flowers, leaving behind only a ring. The ring is picked up by Tommy the monk and put on his finger. There is a powerful explosion, and the tree in the sphere comes to life. Izzy plucks the fruit from this tree and hands it to Tommy, and Tommy in turn plants the seed on Izzy's grave. My first thought after watching the movie, what was it all about? But then you start thinking about what you saw, and it becomes more clear. The events in the film are cyclical and suggest that our lives are constantly being reborn, and death is just one of the stages on our way. In the life of Queen Isabella, cancer on the body of her country was the Inquisition. In Izzy's own life, it was cancer. Tommy dies in Zabalba, sacrificing himself and becoming a tree of life, so that the seed of this tree will then help Izzy herself become a tree and unite with Tommy in eternal life. After all, death is only one of the steps on the path of eternal rebirth. Thanks for watching another Essential Movie Recap. Please like and subscribe.